Coming up with ideas when it comes to drawing a piece can be really tough. I used to, and honestly still am from time to time, just, you know, staring at the blank canvas, not knowing what the heck should I draw. But nowadays, at least most of the time, I have ideas like overflowing inside my brain. Like, I'm always looking forward to whenever I start a new piece. It's a really good feeling, to be honest. Always having something to anticipate and feeling excited to start something new with that idea in mind. Now, I don't know if this can work for you. Everyone is different after all, but I'll share them anyway since I think they have immensely helped me on how I can always come up with something reliably. So, with that being said, let's get the obvious one out of the way. It's gathering references. Yeah, I think you saw that one coming, but even though it's a bit cliche at this point, it is really true. References are a godsend when it comes to coming up with ideas. Before I continue on though, you definitely shouldn't overdo it with gathering them, as it's definitely key to balancing it with actually drawing, and not let it sabotage your drawing time. But anyway, scrolling through Pinterest or your favorite artists or your favorite scenes from your favorite anime or manga, etc., are just a couple of examples of getting the references. It's basically like increasing your visual library with your brain. It can help like gather any idea you have for whatever piece you're trying to come up with and mix up the references that you're using. So let me give you an example of how I would go about using references for my artworks. I'm not sure if it's the most correct way, but so far it's been working for me and you can try what I'm doing. So for example, let's take a look at this Sena Seguri art from Xenoblade 3 that I drew. First of all, the structure and the composition of the piece was taken straight from this art by Picat. And then I was also inspired by the lighting from this art from Hanekoto. And of course, I also took a bit of the posing from this photo, like just modifying it slightly by taking a bit from the Picat art. Particularly, Seguri's expression was taken from Felix from this Picat art, while the arm on the table is from this photo. So basically, like mixing it up. Of course, the characters and the background that I drew are completely different from the previously mentioned art pieces, as well as having the characters eat onigiris instead of the cakes and teas from this Picat piece, since these characters that I drew love eating onigiris, especially Seguri, the character on the left. For those that play Xenoblade 3, you'd understand. Of course, if you didn't play it yet, I highly recommend it. It's one of the best RPGs I ever played on the Switch, and in general, I just love Xenoblade so much. Not trying to get too off topic, just trying to express my love for the game. So anyway, that's how I try to approach like coming up with ideas and mixing them together. I try to take as much as possible from different sources because that will end up not being plagiarism. And yeah, sometimes I do worry if it's plagiarism or original, but I don't think it's plagiarism because the posing and the characters are completely different, for example. So I try to make it as different as possible from these various sources by combining them. So hopefully that this was understandable. This is one way to get your own original idea. Another way to come up with ideas is to simply slow down or take a break. Okay, so how does that work? Basically, in my own experience, and there is actually some research on this, although I felt it worked for me as well. So, what happens is that when you're not consuming stuff, or scrolling, or playing video games, or whatever, and you give yourself a chance to be just bored, or taking a break, or slowing down. So, like, in simple terms, like I'm not gonna explain it scientifically because I think that would be complicated and difficult to understand. So what happens is that these ideas, these thoughts, or these experiences, like just go around your brain, and eventually they will connect together to form a specific idea that you could have in your mind. After all, our brain is just a huge network containing thoughts and ideas that is wandering around to eventually come up with something. That kind of process doesn't really happen when you're too focused on something or just consuming content. That's why you often hear like the best ideas usually comes up when you're taking a shower or on a walk or simply slowing down. So I heavily recommend that from time to time to take it easy and just breathe. Sometimes not even drawing at all. And not being overly stimulated on an activity is better for your ideas to pop up. Okay, so the next step would be to develop an idea bank. So what I mean by that is that sometimes you'll have a great idea pop up where you just have a eureka moment when it comes to what you want to draw in a piece. Of course, this idea will come and go, and you'll probably just forget about it the next day or like in a few hours. So, whenever I get that eureka moment, I immediately note that down on my phone or on my PC or on my notepad, whatever it is. Just make sure that I don't forget that idea next time I wanna start a new piece. Not having to stare at the canvas and immediately get straight to drawing that new idea is a great feeling and saves you lots of time. So, an actionable step would be to just make sure whenever you get that idea down, note it down instantly. So, those are the few steps that I do to get my ideas flowing. Obviously, there could be more, but these are the ones that helped me the most in this video. Hope this was helpful. See ya!